Hey folks, since the last couple of sessions, we have performed some advanced featureization, often known as feature engineering, and we have touched upon several metrics just to come up with some set of feature. So in this session, our fun challenge is all about, let's try to find the mean length of our question 1 and question 2. This is the fun challenge that's all about this session. So in short, it is all about, let's say I have two string, or let's say I have two question. Let's say I love AI. And the second one is all about, let's say, I love AI/ML. Let's say I love AI/ML. So if I will say, hey, what is the length? I can say, hey, it's all about 3 and it's all about 4. Hence, its mean length or average length is all about nothing but 3 plus 4 gets divided by 2, which will end up getting a value as 3.5. It means this is the mean length that we really need if I have such a type of sentences or if I have such type of questions. That's basically a core idea behind what we really need to do. Again, just to do this, there are tons of ways. Literally, there are tons of ways. The first way, which we have extensively used throughout the case study, I can think of converting this string into a list data structure by just calling a split. That's not rocket science. Similarly, just convert this into a list by just calling a split. And we will end up getting a list, and I can say, hey, can I compute a length of this list? Can I compute a length? Again, we are fortunate enough that we have a length function. Cool. Again, there are tons of ways just to compute the total elements in the list, but that's a very easy way just to compute it. Similarly, we have a len function just to compute the total elements in the list. The moment I will call len, we will end up getting value as 4. Similarly, we will end up getting a value as 3. Let's do simple arithmetic and we will get a value as 3.5. That's what we have to do actually in this entire tutorial. Let's try to do it. So first and foremost, I will say diff of question 1. Let's access data of 0th index. This is the data with respect to 0th index. Similarly, if I have question 2, let me execute it. Now, cool. What I will do is I will say just split it. Just to convert this into a list, you can think of calling split. This is the entire list that you have. And if I will call a len on top of this, the moment I will execute, you will end up getting a value as 14. Similarly, if I will consider this question 2, let me execute, you will end up getting a value as 12. And if I will compute its mean length, which is nothing but a summation of this, and it is all about question 1. Let me enclose all this stuff and let me divide by 2. Let me execute it. This is the value what you really need to compute with respect to each of the index or with respect to the entire data you have. So let's try to define a function. Imagine function is all about, let's say, mean underscore length, whatever q1 or whatever, and along with that I have to also pass q2. I will say q2. Cool. And I can think of, first and foremost, if you have any extra white spaces, you can think of stripping that by calling a strip function. On top of this, just call a split. And let me store it in, let's say, q1 underscore, let's say, tokens. Similar stuff I have to do with respect to q2. I will set is q2, it is q1. Cool. Now what I can do is, I can say, whatever the length of q1 underscore tokens, we have to do a summation. We will say length of q2 underscore token. Here you can press tab. This is exactly q1 underscore tokens. Now what you have to do is, you have to do a summation. Let's enclose it and let me divide the value by 2. And I will say it is nothing but a mean. The whatever value we will get, let's try to return that value. I will say return mean. Cool. Let me execute this line of code. Now we have to apply this function which is all about mean underscore length. Just to apply this on data frame, you can think of calling the apply. I will say diff.apply. Now what we have to apply is, we have to apply this function. I can think of using the lambda. I will say lambda of row. It means row is typically, you can treat this row as a pointer. I can think of calling this function, and I can think of calling this function on top of each and every row. I will say row of question 1 along with row of question 2, because you have to apply this function on two string, and over here you have to mention x is equals to 1. Cool. The moment I will execute this line of code, let me show you one more thing. You will end up getting all the values. Now let's try to store it. I will say df of mean length. Again, my bad. It is exactly df of mean length. Cool. Now you can just think of executing this line of code, and I will say df of head of, let me 7. Let's execute. Now you will encounter these are all the featureized data. Look at this. When we have started, I think in the very first session, we have probably just 5 feature. ID, QID1, QID2, question1, question2, and we have also is duplicate feature, which is of course our target feature. Now after doing several featureization, including some basic featureization, and of course we have also touched upon some of the advanced ways along with some string matching approaches, we have come up with approx 32 feature. It means there are 27 features that we have extracted itself from this entire data. It means first and foremost in the Quora data, we have probably 5 feature. Now after doing featureization, we have end up getting 32 feature. Now think for a scenario how these things actually works in the real world. Again, in context of real world, there is again we have instances where we have worked hard just to featureize our data well, and sometimes even take a month. You might end up getting sometimes 1,000 features. That's entirely depend upon the domain in which you are working. Now let's try to store this, or let's try to export this data frame at some particular location. So I will say df2_csv. First and foremost, let's try to pass some path. So I can think of passing this entire path. Let's say the feature, or let's say the dataset name is all about NLP_features_trained.csv. Cool. Let me append raw string, which is all about R. Let me execute this line of code. The moment I will execute, let me show that. Now you will see you will end up getting NLP_features_trained dataset, which is all about probably 2.6 MB. Again, it is a sample, it is not entire data, because many of you doesn't have good specifications, and as I have requested a query regarding this 1,000 times. That's why I have picked up a sample for you, just to make things more simple for you. So that's all about this session. For those of you who have any doubts, feel free to ask with us in the Q&A of the course. That's all about it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Keep learning, keep growing, keep practicing.